Are you thinking about just buying the S&P 500 and forgetting about it? Well, before you do that, you need to watch this video. Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. I'm Aura Ogurian with ACAP Advisors and Accountants, your trusted source for smart tax and financial strategies, all in one place. Everywhere you look online, people are saying the same thing, that you should buy the S&P 500 and forget about it. Even Warren Buffett, the famed investor, has said that the majority of individuals should have their money in the S&P 500. But is blindly buying the S&P 500 the best thing for your money? Is it truly the best investment year after year? And should it be the only thing that you own in your portfolio? So today we're going to break it all down and I'll show you why the S&P 500 is a great investment choice, but more importantly, why it should not be the only investment in your portfolio. So what is the S&P 500 and why is it so popular? The S&P 500 was created in 1957 and it's a collection of the largest 500 publicly traded companies in the US. And it currently includes companies like Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and a lot more. Now, of course, in 1957, when it was created, the composition of those companies was vastly different. It included companies like AT&T, General Motors, General Electric, just to name a few. But the S&P 500 is actually a list of 500 companies. You can't actually buy the list because it's not real. It's not an investable asset. It's simply a benchmark or an index. To actually invest in the S&P 500, you need to buy an index fund that's designed to replicate the performance of the S&P 500. Now, an index fund can be either a mutual fund or it could be an exchange-traded fund. And if you want to learn more about the difference between exchange-traded funds, mutual funds, and index funds, watch the other video I did on that topic. So now let's go over some of the benefits of owning the S&P 500 fund, and there are so many benefits to it. Number one is diversification. With just one investment, you're able to get immediate access to 500 of the largest companies in the United States. Not only that, it gives you a pretty broad-based exposure to different sectors of the economy, such as healthcare, technology, energy, just to name a few. Another benefit of S&P 500 index funds are their low cost. S&P 500 funds have the lowest cost in the industry. For example, the Vanguard VOO, which is an exchange-traded fund, has an expense ratio of 0.03%. That means for every $10,000 you have invested, you only pay $3 in expenses, which is insanely low. But the expense ratio shouldn't be the only thing that you look at when you're looking at an index fund. You also want to look at how much the average volume is on a daily basis, and you want to look at how that index fund is composed, how it's comprised. Another benefit of the S&P 500 is that it's got a proven track record of performance over many, many years. Since 1957, the S&P 500 has experienced pandemics, wars, multiple recessions, and it's still been super resilient in delivering strong performance over those years. Another benefit of the S&P 500 is its simplicity. You no longer have to sift through hundreds of different companies and buy individual stocks to create your own portfolio. All you need to do is just buy the one S&P 500 fund and it gives you immediate diversification. Another huge benefit of the S&P 500 is that it only includes the best companies in the US because it constantly changes those companies to include the best ones and remove the old ones. It keeps the index fresh and it also makes the index have the largest companies in it. For example, in 1990, the top 20 companies in the S&P 500 were mostly energy and consumer goods. But in 2025, the top 20 companies are predominantly technology-based companies. So just think about this. In 20 years, the S&P 500 could include companies that don't even exist right now. Another benefit of the S&P 500 is that it's got built-in global exposure. Many companies in the S&P 500 already have revenues that are generated globally. So companies like Apple, Microsoft, Coca-Cola, a lot of these companies generate a significant part of their revenues out of the United States. So as a result, it gives you an indirect exposure to international markets. Another huge benefit of the S&P 500 is its liquidity. S&P 500 funds are extremely liquid, meaning you can buy and sell your S&P 500 funds very, very easily. That way you can move large amounts of cash and have access to your money very quickly. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, remember to subscribe, like, and share our channel. And if there's a topic you want me to cover in a future video, drop it in the comment section below. I would love to hear your ideas. For all of its positive attributes, the S&P 500 is not perfect and it should not be the only investment in your portfolio. First off, it's 100% in stocks. That means if you have a low risk tolerance and you have all of your money in an S&P 500 fund and the market crashes, you're going to be in for a rude awakening, because in an all stock portfolio, you're going to have a lot more volatility, and that's not going to be commensurate with your risk tolerance. Secondly, diversification. Now, I mentioned earlier that the S&P 500 gives you immediate diversification to 500 companies, but it also underrepresents you in many other different sectors that the S&P 500 does not cover. So sectors such as bonds, real estate, international. Now, I also mentioned earlier that the S&P 500 has an indirect exposure to international, but you're still missing out on some international exposure by only investing in the S&P 500. Another reason why not to have all of your money in the S&P 500 is that it's got a lot of short-term volatility. And if your risk tolerance is not commensurate with short-term volatility, then you could be exposing yourself to 20, 30, even 50% declines in your portfolio value. And it might lead you to make trades that you wouldn't otherwise make had you had a more diversified portfolio. Another drawback to the S&P that it only includes 500 companies. Now, 500 companies seems like a lot of companies, but the reality is there's almost 6,000 companies, publicly traded companies in the US. And there are over 50,000 publicly traded companies globally. So that means if you only have the S&P 500, you only get a fraction of the total companies that are publicly traded, not only in the US, but also globally. The number one reason why the S&P 500 should not be the only investment in your portfolio is performance. A lot of people assume that the S&P 500 is the best performing index year over year, but they're absolutely wrong. In fact, over the past 24 years, the S&P 500 has never been the best performing index in any given year. I'll repeat that. In the past 24 years, the S&P 500 has never been the best performing index in any given year. In fact, the S&P 500 has come in second place only twice in the past 24 years, and those were in years 2023 and 2024. If you're still not convinced, let's look at the performance of the S&P 500 over the 24 years versus all the other benchmarks. So now let's look at the performance of the S&P in two of its best years, in 2013 and 2021. So you'll see in 2013, it had a staggering return of 32.31%. And also in 2021, it had a great return of 28.75%, both phenomenal years. But let's see how it compares to some of the other indexes. So if we look at, for example, the triple Q, which is NASDAQ, VNQ, which is real estate, IWM, which is small caps, EEM is emerging markets, DIA is the Dow Jones Industrial Average, XLP is consumer staples, XLV is healthcare, XLE is energy, and EFA is international large cap. So if we look at both of those years, we'll see in 2013, healthcare outperformed the S&P by a considerable amount, 41.4% versus the S&P of 32.31. In fact, the S&P didn't even come in second. Second to healthcare was was small cap at 38.69. And then after small cap was NASDAQ at 36.9. And then it was the S&P. So the S&P came in fourth. In 2021, with a performance of 28.75%, the best performing index that year was energy at 53.25%. And you can see right after that, it was real estate at 40.52%. And then it was the S&P 500 at 28.75% with a distant third. And then right after that was healthcare as well. So we only looked at 2 years, which is 2013 and 2021. But let's take a look at the remaining years. Let's going back to year 2000. We'll see that the S&P, by the way, the yellows are the best performing indexes in that given year. And you'll see that the S&P is never yellow. That's because in the past 24 years, the S&P has never been the best performing sector. So for example, in the year 2000, S&P was down 9.73. Consumer staples were up 16.13%. In 2008, when the S&P was down 36.81%, the best performing sector was only down 17.66%, and that was consumer staples. Again, as you can see, the S&P 500 has never been the best performing sector in the past 24 years. Even if you look at the averages, the average for that time period in the past 24 years, S&P has been about 9.26, but small cap has had a better average. NASDAQ has a better average. And also consumer staples has had a better average than the S&P. And also energy has performed better than the S&P 500 on average over the past 24 years. So here's the bottom line. The S&P is a phenomenal investment and it should be included in everybody's portfolio. But the point I'm trying to make is it should not be your only holding in your portfolio. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on some great performances in other sectors. But more importantly, your portfolio should be commensurate with the amount of risk that you want to take, especially if you're in retirement or getting close to retirement. If you have all of your money in the S&P 500 or all of your money in stocks, that exposes you to a tremendous amount of risk. What you want to do is you also want to have some bonds in your portfolio or some more safer investments. That way it provides a little more capital preservation for your portfolio in the event the market goes down sharply. So do you own the S&P 500 in your portfolio, or is it the only investment that you have? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Put them below in the comment section.